Well, hello, it's Amanda here and welcome to Arts and Wellness Wednesdays. I thank you for joining me, and in this video I will be sharing with you some of the art activities that I've been getting up to, some great news and some other things that you will need to check out this month, this week, as you go about your daily business. So today, what I thought I would share with you is some of the work that I've been doing, and I normally work kind of like in batches, and I may have 3 or 4 different batches going at the same time, and I'm also battling with the mosquitoes in here because of the rain. It's been raining. It didn't rain today though, so I'm gonna have to go out. After I've done this, I'm going to have to go out and water some of the plants. I've got a little water storage container out there with, it's probably about half filled now, and if we get good rain it will fill up in about a couple of hours, if that. I mean, the amount of water that goes on that falls onto the roof and then off, if you imagine the space that I collect from is about a foot, and I've got a container that catches the water that falls off it's where our solar panel is, and so for some reason it slopes downwards, and then there's no guttering in our house at the moment, or on our house at the moment, so the water falls in about a foot, and I managed to capture that water through a funnel, and then I've created a little hose contraption. So go onto my Creative Gardener YouTube channel and you'll see the setup that I've got. It's a 250 gallon container, but once it's filled up, it's just like, and if we get consistent rain, what I'll be able to do is fill up the containers and store them, so that when we get the drier weather, so come November when it's all stopped, then we'll get the drier weather, and I'm gonna need, sorry, I'm just kind of again lighting my candle. So anyway, I'm gonna need the water from the storage container to water the plants. So that's what I'm gonna have to do. It's my smudge stick. It's just like anything, what's going to work with the mosquitoes? Anyway, so okay, we're on this now. Smudge stick. So I've got a black sage, or several black sage plants. It just, I'd always wanted to grow sage, tried to grow it, didn't have much luck, didn't have any luck at all actually. They never came up. None of the seeds came up. I brought it locally. I brought it from when I had seeds. I found some seeds that were, I think, either from Canada or somewhere, and none of them took. So I found this plant, and yes, okay, it's to do with arts and wellness, but there is therapeutic benefit from being out in your garden. And so it's just like, what is this? It smells. It wasn't that it smelled familiar, but it smelled familiar in the sense that I know that it's used for something, like most plants. Anyway, so just by chance, I asked, was helping clearing some land, and I asked this brother, what's his brother, if he knew what it was, and he was just like, oh, that's black sage. I was just like, black sage? Oh my gosh. I didn't even realise there was black sage. So I had accidentally found it growing on the land, and so it was just like on my land. So it was just like, oh my gosh, I've got black sage, and I didn't have to plant it myself. My elbow. The mosquitoes seem to like my elbows and my knees and my ankles. Go figure. Well, not go figure, because I'm sure I'm not the only person who has the problem at the moment with the mosquitoes as we get more rainfall. Because I was just thinking, when it was dry, there was like a week where there was no mosquitoes at all, but you have a spit of rain and suddenly they're all kind of frolicking and flying around and biting you. Anyway, so yeah, black sage. And I was going to say that most of the plants that I've like said I've wanted, because I want to grow a food forest, I've managed to either be gifted, you know, somebody gives me a plant, or I exchange. I've got a plant that they can use, and you know, they might have something that I can use, or I buy it. So when you're on a budget, then that's something you can, and I've shared this again, go to my gardening YouTube and I share about my gardening adventures. Anyway, so back to arts and wellness. So I do work in batches, so I might have, you know, say a couple of batches of different types of things going. So at the moment I'm really into stitching and slow stitching, and it's come off the back of and I blame because it wasn't until curator Janice Whittle from the Queen's Park Gallery, she had asked me like a year ago to be part of an exhibition, because I had done a series of 4 wall hangings, and then she said to me, you know, do you want to be part of an upcoming exhibition? And it incorporates the Japanese stitching called Boro Shishiko, I think that's the right pronunciation. And when I started on some small pieces, and it was just like, I'd never really saw myself as getting into embroidery, even though, where is it now? I've got this book which I am going to at some point go through. It's 100 embroidery stitches, so I might do that for like one of these 100-day projects. So I might do, you know, a series of, we'll see. I'm not going to commit myself to that, because doing a 100-day project is just like, you know, it can take it out of you. Or if I keep it simple, then, you know, just showing a few stitches every day for 100 days. And not only, so I get to learn the stitches, and you get to learn, you know, you get to learn alongside me. So who knows, I might leave that for further down in the year, because at the moment there's quite a few things on, and things that I want to do, and things that need finishing, hence the batches. So right, so at the moment I'm working on some stitched pieces, and there came a point where I just wanted to just make. I was just like, oh, I can do this, and oh, let me put these together. And I feel that feeling now. It's just like, especially to do with the fabric, because I've been kind of immersed in the stitching. And even, you know, I'll make some pieces, and I want to go back and do even more detail. And again, like as I said, I didn't necessarily think that was something that I had time for, like, you know, that I didn't have the patience for. But the more and more I look at art and creativity, and look at all of the aspects that I enjoy doing, I realised that on its own, I'm not going to do embroidery, but when I bring things together, because it's part of a bigger picture, it's like, it's a really enjoyable thing. And so I found, so I found what I would do is I would say, work on one thing, and then I wouldn't finish it. So maybe by the 3rd day, I'd feel like doing another thing, because I'm inspired by another piece of material. So that one would get left. And so, like, at the moment, it's almost like I've got, I'm just going to show, I'm not going to show you the pieces because they're all still kind of part way. So I've got about 10 projects in there that have all been moved on. Some just need small things done to them. Some, like the ones I'm working on, are more in depth. And I find that I'm working from whether I'm looking at the work, and it's whether it looks and feels. It's like a combination of the look of the overall piece and how I feel with the overall piece. I was telling somebody today, and I've said this before on my channels, that art is for everyone, and whether you are somebody who just likes to observe art, to take part in a workshop, to actually make certain things, or yeah, you just want to buy it, or you're the artist who is making it, there is an impact that it has on each of our mental health, our general well-being. And I really do feel a sense of that when I'm doing this, what I've been come to understand it to call slow stitching. It was just like stitching, you know, but it's, as opposed to being on the sewing machine, it's, you know, done by hand. And there is something very satisfying in doing it. And so I don't feel, you know, I don't kind of have a go at myself because I haven't finished a particular piece, because what I say is that right now that piece is where it needs to be, and another piece needs to be worked on. Now today I had wanted to do something else, but another piece of art, and I'll show you in a minute, another stitch piece was calling me, and it was just like, you have to spend time in this. And then on top of that, I'm doing a project that the method that I have chosen to execute it in is new to me. New to me in the sense that I've done quilted pieces, I've done art pieces, but I've never done, say, a portrait. I've never done a portrait in fabric. And one of my favourite artists at the moment, who does a lot of fabric portraits, is Bisa Butler. So definitely go and check her out. She does some amazing large life-sized pieces that I've always had not insecurities, but I've never felt comfortable doing the really large piece. I'm not saying that I would never ever. I have done some larger pieces, and the exhibition that I was in, it was in December, at the Queen's Park Gallery, where it was called Celebrating Fabrics. That was the largest piece that I had done. And so it's just allowing me, as I step out of my comfort zone, I'm getting, you know, the pieces are getting bigger. And I've also said to myself that, you know, you can still work on smaller pieces, because if all the smaller pieces are connected, you can bring them all together for a larger piece. You know, it doesn't, if you're going to do bigger, it doesn't necessarily mean that I have to be working on a, you know, 3 by 5 foot canvas. It can be I have smaller sections which then go towards the whole. And that's probably how, again, because of my space and, you know, the setup, is probably what will work best for me until I can, you know, I was going to say commandeer my other part of the studio, which isn't really, it's my front room, which is where we had the artist studio tours. But, you know, until I can, you know, really, what I'd love to do in this space is have some more storage, have a lot more storage, you know, redo it. And yeah, there's a lot of work that needs to be done so that it can, you know, house maybe more equipment. Gosh, more equipment. Oh gosh. Should we go shopping online to see what next, what kind of things that we'll have next? But at the moment, I make do with what I have, and I utilise all the things that I have. And some of the things, you know, it's quite amazing when you think some of the things that we we don't realise that can double up as, you know, something that you can use in your creativity. So let me show you, I'll keep an eye on this, the embroidered stitches. I'll really think about, I thought about it for the last, I did a 100-day project, and that turned out to be the pastels. I did 100 days of pastels. But the stitching, because I've been doing the stitching, I'm thinking, you know, maybe. But what's coming out of all the stitching that I've been doing is so many more projects. And, you know, what the stitching is also allowing me to tap into is the painted fabric, because I love working with fabric, and canvas is just fabric. So I love, you know, I've got some projects that take into consideration more painted fabric, more ideas. I've got some just other little things, the weaving, the looms, that I still want to share more of them, because I have just kind of been prolific at making but not at sharing. So I will be sharing some. But as I say, I kind of, you know, work on some, and then I leave it, go on to another thing. And, you know, especially with the painting, sometimes, you know, because you're dealing with stuff that needs to dry or whatever it is, and that's just giving me an idea. I'm just thinking that, you know, some of the techniques that we would use in our, I would use, say, like, I'm thinking I've got embossing powders, and how would that work? How does that work with, you know, working with the fabric and the stitched fabric, and incorporating some of the stamps that I have and that I've made. Oh gosh, you are going to be in for a treat, you know, because it's just like, oh my gosh, I want to start now. But they're, you know, unless I can get some more hands to help and be one of those artists who say, oh yes, yeah, okay, you three over there, you do those parts, and then you three over there, actually, we're going to bring these parts together, and then you four over there. It's like, okay, so we got 10 assistants. But anyway, let me show you what I've been doing. So I've shared 3 of the pieces that I've done so far. So I showed you where they were at, and now I've kind of taken them on a bit further. So I'll show you this one first. So with this particular one, I've still got to do the how it would hang. I'm thinking of here. Yeah, I probably will go with here, but it is actually just completing it. I did the backing, so the backing is now complete, and I really like the way that it is. But I thought to myself, I might do some additional stitching, because I started along this side, and whilst it is the back, you don't necessarily, you know, decorate the back, but I just think it's like having a 3D piece of art. This is, you know, it's not just, you're not necessarily going to show that bit, but when you as the owner look at this piece, you know that there is like a secret piece just for you. And I like that idea. I've done it in one of my other pieces called Bird, and that is on my, I've shown it on my Instagram, and when you look at the back, it's got an additional piece of art, totally different from, so like a little painting at the back of the work, and the only person that would see it is the person who owns it. So I just thought, like, little things like that just make it a little bit more special. So yeah, that was the thing that I did with this. The only other thing I did was, again, started to add some stitching. I was just like in the mood for stitching, and I just felt, because this the way that I created this, it's like, it doesn't have to be all straight lines and then you got an inch under this. This is a more organic piece. You like that? Yeah, I like that. But I just thought, you know, delicate little stitching, so I've just got to finish up here. And I probably will keep this one for myself. I like it. This was the first woven piece that I did. and it was after a trip to, I went back home and saw my family in London, and I went to a store called the Yarn Store, and I found a cardboard loom, and it was just like I was in heaven. And thinking back to that, like, you know, I guess that's why mixed media suits me, because I feel this way over all different types of materials. I feel that, oh my gosh, I really want to work with, and I allow myself to do it. Oh my gosh, I really want to work with. I've probably shown you these before. I have shown you these before. I really want to work with wood, so I do it, and it's allowing yourself to explore and allowing yourself to play. And whilst I've done these then will, it's like they're all part of the puzzle. So these might become the way that this is hung, you know, and it's almost like it all, oh my gosh. Yeah, I've got to maybe have one at the top and one at the bottom. I was just putting it up there for, but maybe, I mean, I'd prefer one to be the same length, but maybe, you know, well, that's the way I look at it. So I don't see it as a distraction. I see it as that this is another part that fits into the puzzle that I need to look at, and I do have to be mindful about where my focus is and what I need to concentrate on. Like this other project that I've got is something that has a deadline, so I have to get on with that. But in between that, I'm kind of doing all the other pieces as well. So that was the first one. The second one, which I've shown you a bit of, is this one. So this one, I took it again further. So there's the element where it can be hung. I put some beads on here, and I put some beads around the edges, which I can't remember whether I'd done it last time. This, I just have to tie that off. No, actually, I have to cut that bit off. And I was debating whether to put some additional beads hanging down in this type. I'll have to see whether I have more of these beads, but I like beads like this would actually go well hanging down, so I'm debating whether to do that. And then to the back, which I like seeing the back of things, so there's, you know, little detail at the bottom where I've added little beads, and again the stitching, so I've added additional stitching, which I probably will do some more, just to have, you know, it's just, for me it feels a little bit special. And one of the things that one of the videos when I was first doing the Boro Shishiko work for that exhibition, I watched a video, and what the guy was saying is that when, you know, it used to be the poor who would create these, it was a way of mending their clothes, and what they would do is add patches of, you know, additional fabric to the piece, and then when you saw whatever you saw on one side, you wouldn't know that it was the back or the front. Both sides looked, you know, really nicely done. So you didn't see like the bit knotted off on the inside. It was just like, you know, if you took it off, you could, it was double-sided. And so the stitching had to be that it was seamless on both sides. And yeah, you couldn't see whether, you know, you'd folded in the hem and then you'd hemmed it or whatever. All the stitching was just, as I say, whether you wanted to wear it one side or the other, you could. And so that, for me, it was just like, well, when you quilt, anyway, I know quilters, I mean, I'm not a quilter. I'm just trying to think, really. and doing my own thing. And but what I felt is that I wanted the back to look as nice as the front. It doesn't have to look, you know, I don't have to go into that much detail, but I want the back to, when you turn it round, you just think, oh, that's pretty, you know. But anyway, so that was the other piece. So I'd added the back in, as I said, and, you know, stitched that. And then this was the third one that you saw, if you check back at the other videos. So it didn't have this backing. So what I've done is I've put a backing in, and I've done just added bits to the side in a different material. What else did I do? I've added some more detail at the top here with beading, and some more beads down at the bottom here and here, and I'm just debating whether to carry that on here. And at the top it was just like, you're going to go in for overkill, but again, as I say, it's about how it feels to me. That's why I, you know, can step away and then work on something else and then come back to it. And I've also done some like metal beadings, and there is just one additional, where is it now? I had these metal pieces that I'm gonna put on, and so yeah, to finish this piece off, I will have the, oh, will I? Something like, maybe. Who knows? We'll see. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, those wooden, the burnt wood ones, I really love the way they turned out, and the wood has been harvested from my garden. So the piece that I'm now working on, which, as I say, these were all in my bag of other projects that have got to be finished. So I was working on this this morning, and I've just added some beading up here. I'm putting in a backing, so I'm going with the same, I'm going with this fabric, and then along the sides using the same fabric. And this piece is going to have a bit more beading, just to kind of bring out the kind of, what colour would you call that, hot pink, and then we've got the pink in there as well, you know, the pink along here. But I'm just going to kind of bring it all together, and incorporate the colours, the pink colours. So I'm looking forward to doing some more work on this. Again, a lot of it has been done by hand, but it is, you know, as opposed to just throwing it on the machine, it allows you to, I think, if you are a sewer, you'll understand that, you know, it just, I don't know, it just allows you to kind of contemplate, think, and you know, if I'm, say, you know, talking, like having an online meeting or something like that, I would, you know, get out the stitching, because, you know, it's something that you can still continue to do while having a conversation, which is great. You know, I don't really need to be looking into your face to talk to you. So those are the projects that I've been working on, and I've got, as I say, I've got a bigger project that I'm trying to remain focused. Well, I will remain focused because it does involve, again, it does involve stitching. And yeah, just, you know, wanted to remind you that sometimes, dogs next door, I don't know what they're barking at. Barking at somebody they've seen, or they're barking at Cole, who has escaped. Anyway, so to think about the kind of things that you want to look at, and to not feel that you can't step out and step back, you know, you can't dip into it and dip back. And, you know, often what I do is, if I'm working on something and I totally change track, like, I'm just trying to think, like I've got some clay that needs working on, and I was building, in the middle of building, well actually no, I wasn't in the middle of building, I had created a mini fire pit, because I want to try the traditional methods of firing. I'm just making small things that will be incorporated into my artwork, and just small little trinket pots for myself. Nothing, you know, I'm not gonna want to get a large kiln or anything like that, but I want to see how, using traditional methods, that you can be creative, and the kind of effects that you will get. So I've already fired 2 small pieces of clay, which was just like, it's, you know, we're in such a dry period at the moment. All I can think of is, oh my gosh, you know, I've got to be careful of, you know, starting a fire and then the whole of my garden burns down because everything's so dry. But this thing has a lid, so, but you just have to watch it. But I was thinking to myself, gosh, you know, part of my dialogue was, yeah, if you had a kiln, then you wouldn't have to watch it. But it was just like, no, but you want to do the traditional methods. So until you can build a proper fire pit where, you know, you can set it up and then leave it, you know, you just use the little thing that you got, and while you're burning that and trying to fire the clay, you could be working out in the garden. So that's how I've had to kind of incorporate certain things. So I've got a mini thing that I made. It cracked, but what I want to do is fire it anyway, and then I can't remember what that well, I think it's another Japanese technique where you fill the cracks with gold. So I haven't got any gold, but I'm going to look at what other things, you know, how you can incorporate that into a particular art piece. So everything is, you know, used, and everything has its value, regardless of what it looks like right now, because when it's in its individual state, you won't see the beauty until it all comes together. So that's what I'm working on. But I hope that you're able to, this week, step even further out of your comfort zone. Look at some of the techniques that you're doing, do some research, check out some other artists. So one of the things that, did I mention it last week? Did I? Is it? Anyway, Rachel Juanita, she's also known as Queenpreneur. Yeah, I think I did mention it last week. Anyway, so she's been sharing artists and a bit of their work, and I was one of the artists that she shared, which was really great. So have a look at, there were so many artists that I hadn't seen, as I said, that I've been looking up the work and just being inspired. And I think that's what you have to do. You have to take time to check out what other people are doing. I know that, you know, sometimes, you know, you've got your artwork, you know, you've got your work, then you've got the admin side, and then you've got, you know, the promotion and marketing. And for those of us who are not in the position where you've got somebody to manage that full time and you can pay them, you're going to have to carve out some time to do that if you want to if you want to advance your work, because it is about getting your work in front of more eyes and getting more people to interact with other people. And you'd be surprised the kind of connections, some of the connections I've made have just been so amazing. Some of these women online, and, you know, what starts out as just commenting on their piece and then kind of having some sort of dialogue and getting to a place where there's a real connection, you know, as artists, we, you know, you're connecting in a way that is really lovely. Do you know what they're barking at? It must have been it's either an ambulance, because the ambulance siren hits a certain pitch that just sets them off, or it's a motorbike. And there's about 5 of them over there. Cole, our dog, well, my dog, he doesn't get involved in those kind of things, although he does want to play with them sometimes, and he will run back and forward, you know, and they'll bark at him and he wants to just play, and he's just like, come on guys, you know. But I say to him, you know, you can't hang out with those wayward dogs, because I've seen them when you look out the window sometimes late at night and they're wandering past our house, and it's just like, so where are you going now? It's like they're going out for a party. Anyway, so I think I will leave it there. There's lots more that I can share. Check. You know, there's lots of focus on how we can support artists, how we can support black artists, how we can, you know, looking at the hashtag Black Lives Matter, and, you know, a lot of people are still saying all lives matter, and I would say not in the eyes of some police. So if all lives matter, there is no way that policeman would have, all the black people that have died getting out their car, you know, going about their business, sleeping. Brianna, sorry, I can't remember her name. The last lady that, I think her name is Brianna. She was sleeping. She was in her bed, you know. So we have to look at the state of things at the moment is where people are holding up placards saying, you know, it's my right to have my hair cut, because, you know, because of COVID, they weren't able to go to the hairdressers. For people of colour and black people, the reality is that the fear, you know, and I feel this, it's like every time my son goes out, you know, especially when he used to go to his summer camp in the States, it's just like, I'm just laying down some prayer, because, you know, it only takes one policeman to decide that, you know, he's walking funny, or he's doing this, or he's just minding his own business, that, you know, and I don't even want to talk about anything, but we know what's happened. You know, some people, you know, they're not doing anything. Like, to have that fear anyway, why should I have the fear that, you know, my son might not make it home? You know, so we have to make a stand, basically. You have to share your voice. And I think if we are to move on as creatives, you know, this is something, again, this is something that we address. This is something that is a reality. It's my reality. It's my son's reality. It's my husband's reality. It's my sister's reality, my nephew, nieces, you know, my mum. There's a big mosquito. Anyway, it's our realities that, you know, that at the moment, any one of us, it doesn't matter what you're doing, any one of us might not make it to see tomorrow. So when we talk about Black Lives Matter, it's that, why should any of us have to feel that way? Because I know other people don't, you know, and I'll say to people, you know, well, when your children go abroad or to the States, they don't fear, you know, that, you know, a policeman's going to pull out their gun and, you know, riddle them with bullets. And some say, oh, well, you know, if you're not guilty of anything, then you've got nothing to worry about. And as I say, you know, you could be sleeping in your bed. Those 8 policemen that came into that young lady's house, 8 of them, riddled with 8 bullets, they had the wrong house. How did they check? You know, or what are they going to say now? Oh, sorry. You know, oh, yeah, it was a clerical error, apparently it was called. So, yeah, I think it's time that as creatives, yes, you know, I'll talk to the cows come home about the effects on art and creativity on your health and well-being. And this is one of the things that I guess we have to share We have to share our voices. We have to share our experiences. You know, you're not just going to see a one-dimensional me. You know, it's about the whole of me. This is, you know, from the things that excite me to the things that worry me to the things that scare me to the things that encourage me. You know, that's when we share our voices, we make an impact on the lives of others. And that's the other thing that I would say as artists, as creatives, it's finding your purpose. And your purpose is about sharing what you do, about using your voice through your creativity to encourage somebody else. And the more that you think about it as play, say Amanda said I could play, you know, play with your materials, play with your supplies, allow your voice to come out. And when I say that, it's, you know, if you want to say, for instance, I would say one of the exercises might be to use the colours that express the way that you feel. So for instance, you might use blues because you're feeling quite calm, and yellows and pastel colours, you know. Oops. Anyway, I think I was talking too long, so let me just put that down for now. Anyway, let me just finish here now. But yeah, you know what I mean. So use your voice, express how you feel, express what you want to say, use words, use your art journal, you know, use your creativity, because we can't go back to how it was. We can't pretend, because we've just seen too much now. You've seen too much now. So we've got to deal with where we are at now and where it is we want to be going forward. So I encourage you, I support you, I hope that I can inspire you. And it's getting darker. I didn't even realise the sun was setting. Is that how long we've been talking? Anyway, so hope to see you again soon. Check out some of the other posts that I've done, and I look forward to connecting with you. Check on Friday. I've got a review coming out. Got some more work we're looking at, and some more poetry. So take care. Oh, yeah, that's what I wanted to say. It's all right to take a break, because I took a break. I took a break last week, and it was just like, I know I should post, but I didn't want to. I posted some things, but anyway, so we're going to leave it there, and I will see you again soon. Take care.